Dairy genetics and good afternoon, everyone. The topic for today's discussion is dairy genetics and breeding. Mind you, it is a very complex subject. However, I will try to make it simple for you. First of all, as usual, I don't have any presentations to show you. So I would request you to please listen very carefully so as to understand the various aspects of this particular topic. Now, if you consider dairy farming, dairy genetics, what do you mean by dairy genetics? It is the study and the application of genetic principles to improve the characteristics of a dairy animal, especially cows, which depend on understanding the ability to produce, have a higher milk production, have a better milk composition, which is the fat and the protein percentage. The third is the fertility of the animal, which means the ability to reproduce regularly. Overall health in terms of, now health could be called as ability to prevent diseases or onset of a diseases or have a higher disease resistance and improve longevity. That means the animals will stay alive for a long time at the same time, but will give more and more cows for us. Now, second is what is selective breeding? That means guiding a breeding programs in such a way that the cows will be able to produce offsprings which will give better performance. In this, we have genomics also, which involves analyzing the animal's DNA to predict its genetic potential. Now, a simple example can be cited of this. We have a breed called Gir in India, which when taken to Brazil, it was having cross-mated and having changes in the DNA structure to have a breed called Girlando. And this Girlando breed has been effectively improvised, so much so that the minimum milk production per day is about 50 liters and above. Whereas in India, what you see is about 20 liters, that's all. Now, thirdly, it will be improving the performance of the animal. Now, this is the ultimate aim of any dairy farmer or any country for that matter, because overall that will lead us to have overall improvements, the quality of the animal as well as its performance and the profitability of the dairy animals, which can definitely become, excuse me, which can become very healthy, have more production in terms of quality and quantity of milk. Thus, if you see what is important is that dairy genetics plays a very vital role, important role in milk production, health, and overall productivity all across. Now, to understand the exact meaning of genetics, I'd like to cite a few examples of humans for you. We had many great personalities having fantastic distinguishing properties and characters. To cite a few, I would say Dara Singh, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Big B, APJ Abdul Kalam, Balasaheb Thackeray, and Rajiv Gandhi. Now, all these people carried very good genes. These were passed on to their offsprings. But were the offspring really effective in that matter? I have my doubts. I don't think their offspring are performed in a better way than their fathers. So it's in humans, it is actually the upbringing of the offspring, whereas in animals, it is actually only the management and the feeding which takes care of everything. That means whatever is the desired outcome, you will be able to have that with help of good management as well as feeding practices. Now, coming back to our livestock. Now, Indian dairy farming, if you see, has been done for centuries together. But the methods which were being followed have been also carried on for generations together. Most of the scientific management practices were not at all followed. Things done by their forefathers, for the farmers, have been meticulously passed on and being continuously followed for generations altogether. Now, to be very realistic and to be very practical, I would like to say that AI was first introduced in India in the 80s. However, the farmers started following AI regularly only after 2000. I will give another example. I think this would be the year 2010, somewhere around that time. I had a chance to visit Jorhat, which is in Assam. I was surprised to see a farmer having 40 animals, giving his cows boiled food. When I asked him why it was being done, he said that, sir, we are also doing the same thing for humans. So I am doing the same thing for animals. I said, what will you do if you have 200 animals? And he had no answer for that. Meaning to say that we have been following all the age-old practices. Now, what is important to see is dairy cattle genetics can help in predicting and influencing performance of the F1 generation. Now, what is F1 generation? F1 is the next generation from one cow. That is the calf coming from a cow, which will have the desired characters, which are really wanted by the farmers, can be said as milk production, good health. Good health means again, similarly, to have better disease resistance, to prevent any, onslaught of diseases. Then it should have quality which will be favorable for management. Now, this can be planned by farmers, making it them possible that the next generation of springs will be easily managed and will be more profitable. Thus, what has happened is the farmers have started breeding, that is, mating their animals with the best animals. Now, of course, mating like this, of course, requires considerable insight. Genetic principles have been discovered and applied during breeding. As a result, animals which were giving less milk before have started producing more milk in the next generations. That means, to give you a simple example, a mother producing 10 to 20 liters of milk has been able to produce an offspring giving 30 to 40 liters of milk. Now, classical example of this can be cited of Israel. I have been to Israel. What I have seen is that they had their original indigenous breed, which was crossed with Holstein, so much so that ultimately they reached a national average of 40 liters per day. And this is, I'm not talking of now, I'm talking of the year 2009 when they are able to achieve this. Now, earlier what was happening was we were trying to have improvement in the feeding and management practices, but it was difficult to get more milk. Now, this has been possible only with concentrating on the genes. So as to get a sustainable milk production and higher milk production, of course, it has to be definitely combined with better nutrition, that is better feeding practices as well. How this was done? This was done by selecting a good breed. Now, which breed of the animal is important has to be decided by the farmer. Of course, the population, the production factors, and the economics also plays a vital role in this. Breeds will differ depending upon the size of the animal, their milk and its components, the production, the temperament, of course. But while mating and breeding, the farmer's decision will be usually based upon the market, personal preference, facilities available for him, as well as other economic factors. Now, crossbreeding, breeding of an animal from one breed to another. In dairy, this is usually done by using a bull of a different breed so as to have improved milk production. Like I said earlier, the classical example is Israel, wherein they used the breed called Holstein. Now, what has happened because of this is the crossbred animals have been able to increase the fertility of the animal, the longevity of the animal, the efficiency, the health. Health is vis-a-vis ability to fight off diseases. Then the adaptability to the environment, which has certainly led to improved profitability. Now, genetic improvement, what exactly you mean by that? Now, this is possible only by several tools, which makes the predictions of a dairy genetics easier. In this case, the sire meaning the father, selection is the fastest way to make improvement in the herd genetics. Of course, cow families and the pedigrees also are equally important. But if you look at it, the sire selection, that means the selection of the father, makes up for more than 50% of the total in terms of genetic progress. Now, how this is achieved? This is achieved by a simple methods called as, now first could be, how do you determine this? Now, first of all, you have a permanent unique identification of the animal. That means it is having identification by way of using collars, by different digits, by using RFID, or by readers, which are being constantly used. Now, what is happening is now it is all these types of readers and RFIDs and all are common in managing the feeding, the breeding, and the individual animal health also. Then we have the pedigree, that is the proper recording of the sire, the father, ID, that is required for genetic improvement because you have to have a record of the animal. This also has been used in the last few years. At the same time, we also have to encourage the dam, that is the mother, ID is also required, so that the genetic principles are better understood and accurate estimates of the mother's genetic merit also becomes important. Now, cows with high genetic merit were always are referred to as elite cows, and they are usually mated with the top sires to provide bulls for the progeny testing programs. Now, progeny testing is what? Progeny testing is looking at the offsprings whose performance will provide as data for evaluation as to which sire has to be selected. Now, performance recording, if you can come. Genetic improvement can only be achieved with measurement of distinguishing qualities, target of improvement. In many countries, the cows are also enrolled for this particular program, and their data is effectively linked to the national database, by virtue of which they are able to calculate the national average also. This, like I said earlier, the ideal example would be of Israel, wherein everything is linked everywhere. Now, for progeny testing, what were the initial qualities which were looked upon? That was basically for milk and butter fat. These were usually used before, but now if you see, from 1990, the evaluation of protein, milk protein, the yield of milk protein, the percentage of milk protein, the calving, the longevity, mastitis control, somatic cell count, female fertility with other qualities have also been initiated and used for record keeping. Lastly, we have artificial insemination. This become common because with the advance in the dilution and freezing bull semen, which can be kept for decades, came into picture without any compromise to its fertility. This has facilitated pregnancy testing early in the bull's life. A pregnancy test, a progeny test, how the progeny test is done? It is obtaining a few dozens of daughters of a bull, allow the daughters to calve again and milk them and check their performance, then by virtue of which the progeny of the sire is evaluated. Now, what is happening is many bulls sire are present. However, we can only determine by proper testing how it will be able to transmit the favorable qualities to its offspring. To finalize and identify these bulls are kept in waiting, and then this progeny testing allowed us to test the bull to produce thousands of daughters through its semen. Now we have genetic evaluation systems also. Evaluation of genetic merit of cows and bulls are economically important to be selected as the parents for the next generation. This is done by a sampling program in randomizing the bull daughters, like I mentioned earlier, in various levels of management. Based on these parameters, the farmer can and is able to select the bull best for his cow and purchases the semen for breeding. Lastly, we come to genomics again, which is the study of DNA. Most recent advances in the evaluation and methodology is combining genomic information with the physical characteristic of a dam. That means with the physical characteristics of the mother. This increases the reliability and has brought dramatic changes in the dairy industry, which were expected to increase the rate of genetic improvement. This, of course, all this is achieved by artificial insemination, embryo transfer technology, and specific sex semen, also called as SSS. Of course, I will come to this later on and we will discuss this in detail. Lastly, we can see the genetic progress of the animals. Genetic improvement procedure is followed in most countries. This has resulted in cow numbers, even though decreased cow numbers are there, the improvement in the milk production has gone up. And this is all because of the improved genetic capacity for the efficient dairy production. Now let us start looking at the Indian dairy scenario. We have large number of indigenous breeds which have distinguishing characters. The main distinguishing characters can be, adaptability to a different climate, having a good disease resistance and all that. Now, if you talk of breed wise, let us talk of, say, Gir, for example. Gir is usually found in Gujarat, which is a sturdy breed, but the milk is in a moderate quantity, maybe about 10 to 20 liters only. Then we have a Sahiwal breed, which is coming basically from Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh. It is a very, very, very good producer of milk. And actually, I would say it is one of the best breeds amongst all the indigenous breeds. Then we also have Red Sindhi, which is coming from Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, which is very, very heat resistant. However, the milk, it is not that much, but it can adapt to any changes in the climate. Then we have Tharparkar from Rajasthan, which is a dual purpose breed. The dual purpose breed meaning is what? Is that it is used also for milk as well as for drought purpose, working in the agriculture fields. Then we have Kankraj, which is again from Gujarat and Rajasthan. It is very good with a great disease resistance. But again, the milk yield is quite less. Now, in India, crossbreeding programs have not taken between high-yielding exotic animals and indigenous animals to improve the milk quality as well as quantity, at the same time maintaining the adaptability of the Indian breeds to the local climate. For example, the crossing being done was between HF with Gir or Sahiwal, which improved the milk yield tremendously. Secondly, Jersey was also crossed with indigenous breeds, which gave us more healthy animals, but moderate milk yield. At the same time, you also have buffalo breeds. I am sure you are aware that India is a leading producer of buffalo milk throughout the world. Now, we have few breeds of buffaloes which are quite good in performance. First is Murrah, which is coming from Haryana and Punjab, which has got a good milk yield also, and it is widely used for breeding. Then we have got Jafrabadi from Gujarat, an animal which is very large in size, but the milk production is also equally high. Then we have Mehsana from Gujarat. Comparatively, it's a little smaller animal, but it has a milk with a very high fat percentage. Then we have a Nagpuri breed from Maharashtra state, which is more suited for drought conditions. Then we also have a Pandharpuri breed in Maharashtra. Now, this breed is smaller in size, but the advantage of this breed is that being smaller in the size, the feed conversion ratio is very good. So what we have is milk production is good vis-a-vis the feed taken by the animal, which is not the case with other buffaloes. Now, genomic selections has been done to improve the genetic potential. Now, this is, of course, by using of semen straws. Now, this is done by AI. Unfortunately, in India, AI is very common and used everywhere. But it is very sad to say that the conception rate is only less than 40. We also have embryo transfer technology, by virtue of which we have got embryos being placed in other animals, which is having rapid multiplication of the genes everywhere. But once again, it is not that economic for the farmer because it is expensive. It is an expensive method, and usefulness vis-a-vis the farmer is a big question mark because of the largely due to economics and the conditions with. Of course, but these are widely approved by the apex body of India, that is NDDP, and also the National Bureau of Animal Genetic Resources, that is NBAGR. Now, like I said, we have a good genomic selections, which is helping us to identify superior animals based on DNA makeup. This is again achieved only by three things. I am repeating myself. It is first is by AI, used widely. Second is SSS. Now, what is SSS? SSS is specific sex semen. That means the company which is producing semen, they have and have been giving guarantees to the farmers that using this semen will give you 90% of production of female calf. Now, firstly, if you look at this SSS, it is very expensive compared to the ordinary semen. In ordinary semen also there are chances that there will be 50% females, whereas in SSS they claim to have more than 90% females. But again, here is this case, it is expensive, and the conception rate is also less than 24% as of today. Now, to be very realistic and very practical and to be very blunt, I would like to say a few things about this SSS. This is, of course, after my work in the Indian dairy industry, pan-India, for last 40 plus years. I have doubts about the specific sex semen because the method they use for segregating the chromosomes of XX and YY. The common methods used are either centrifuge or laser technique. Now, there is much possibility that there could be mutation of the genes by harming the structure of the DNA. We have a lot of results having a very good F1 generations, but the results of F1 producing F2 leave a lot to be desired, and they are yet to be seen. Of course, once again, I will say the same thing. This is my own personal objections. I have nothing to say about the people using this technology. But I would definitely like to see the F2 and the F3 generations, which are giving very good results and are able to reproduce perfectly. But recently, what I have come across is one good technology called a sex fixing technology. Now, what exactly do you mean by sex fixing technology? That means you are trying to use some product by virtue of which you will be able to fix the sex of the offspring. Now, it was surprising. I have seen this in Tanzania, this being used. This product actually has to be given orally. And orally, and how it has to be given is a very simple phenomena that if you are using AI, it has to be given about 15 to 30 minutes prior to AI. But in case a natural service is being done, then it has to be given effect immediately after the AI is being, after the natural service is being done. Now, I was always wondering at how this could function so correctly and nicely because absorption takes a lot of time. But in this case, it is seen that it works to the salivary absorption. Now, salivary absorption can be, you can easily correlate with one simple thing. It is by, say, taking tobacco or by smoking a cigarette, people are able to have whatever desired outcome they want. Like we can see in India, we have many people who say that unless I smoke, I cannot go to the washroom. So once they have one puff of the smoke, they can immediately go to the washroom and all that. So I think this is an innovative method which can be tried. Of course, it is not that expensive and it can be really used for a good use. That's what I feel. Of course, once again, it is my personal observation and my personal this thing. If you want to have any more information on all this, I would like to request you to please call on me anytime to discuss. Please avoid sending a WhatsApp or an email to ask the questions. Once again, I am extremely thankful for you, for your patient hearing, and wishing you a good day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for the detailed talk. I will now take up some quick questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So, what are the key traits to consider when selecting dairy cattle for genetic improvement?
The key characters you could say is, first of all, is the production of milk quantity. Secondly, its fertility percentage, meaning to say that it should have a fertility always. Thirdly, if you look at it, that it could be longevity of the animal. And fourthly, if you look at it, you would say that ability to transfer the characters successfully and producing more number of females. That would be an added advantage, so that you don't have to use any other techniques for producing females. Because in India we would like to have more of females and not males.
Okay. Next question. How does genomic selection improve dairy cattle breeding efficiency?
No, it doesn't improve the breeding efficiency. See, genomic selection will not improve the breeding efficiency. Breeding efficiency is important by virtue of which technique has been used. Now, when you say breeding techniques, what you are doing is you are having either artificial insemination or you are having embryo transfer technology. Now, both have their advantages as well as disadvantages. So it basically depends on that. But genomic selection will definitely help us to achieve a better profitability by virtue of improving everything. So I would say we have to target on having a better breeding practices. Breeding means we should, as I said, AI percentage of conception is hardly 40%. That has to be improved. That means we are losing many days. If you are talking of 40%, that means you are talking of 2.5 inseminations per animal. If you are talking of 2.5 inseminations per animal, you are talking of wasting of about 70 days in the cow cycle, which is a loss. So we have to improve the breeding practices, and not the genetic selection will, of course, is being done and will be done always without any risk.
Right. Okay. And what are the latest advancements in dairy cattle embryo transfer and artificial insemination?
No, there is not much advancement. Of course, they have been able to, AI has been used. Mainly, I have been looking at AI being done from maybe 2000. But what is important in the case is that the timing of AI is a big problem. See, what is happening, the AI of an animal should be done. From 12 hours, it comes on heat. Unfortunately, the most of the farmers don't observe heat. And what is happening by virtue of which the timing of AI is missed, which leads into, the animal not staying pregnant. Now, as far as embryo transfer technology is concerned, it is expensive technology, first of all. Secondly, we have got a very few number of doctors who are, really proficient in doing the embryo transfer. So it is quite expensive. And then, even if you want to have it on a farm, you have to have at least a selection of 5 to 6 animals, which for the heats have to be, taken at the same time. You have to, what they call it as, synchronization of heat. So it is a very expensive process. I think AI would be more ideal if I are able to identify the exact time of insemination.
Okay. And how can small-scale farmers benefit from genetic improvement program?
See, by genetic improvement, one thing they can see is they will be able to produce offsprings in their own farms, which will have a better milk yield. This is number one. But number two, what they also have to consider that when they are using, say, AI, which is quite cheaper compared to other alternatives, they also have to look at one thing, especially while they are having insemination of the heifers, that means the first time calvers, to check the weight of the bull. What is happening in India, what I have seen, I have carried some programs for AI workers of NDDB and SAG, wherein I found that there was indiscriminate usage of the bull, the sire. But the startling fact was the weight of the dam is hardly 250 kilos, whereas the weight of the sire is more than 1,000 kilos, which is a big headache in terms of having problems while delivering because the sizes don't match. So what would be better for a farmer is to check the weight of the bull he is using for better breeding, having a good genomic selection.
Okay. And what role does crossbreeding play in enhancing milk yield and disease resistance?
Crossbreeding will not play much role in increasing disease resistance. We have to combine two different breeds to have both the things. Like for example, in India, we have got the indigenous breeds, which are very good disease resistant animals. Now, if we cross them with Holstein Friesian or something similar, now almost 80% of the animals being crossed are by HF. We will definitely have a more high milk yield, and the offspring will take the character of the mother of a disease resistance. So by crossbreeding, we will be able to achieve what is required in India at least, is we want to have a better milk yield. So it is better to cross it with an exotic animal to get a better average. The disease resistance capacity is already existing in our Indian breeds.
Okay. And how does heat tolerance impact dairy cattle breeding in tropical climates?
Can you repeat the question, please?
And how does heat tolerance impact dairy cattle breeding in tropical climates?
What exactly do you mean by heat tolerance? Can you enlighten what exactly you want to ask? What do you mean by heat tolerance? Or do you mean to say that high heat or more temperature? What it is?
Yeah, temperature. Tropical climates. It's asking about the tropical climates.
No, tropical climate doesn't play much of a role because, like, if you look at India, we have climate range, temperature ranging from almost 25 to 50. Like, if you go from, say, Goa towards Rajasthan, the temperature will vary right from 25 up to 50. But everywhere you will see the cows are there and they are this thing. It is basically the management practices which are involved and which will take care of everything. We do not have different practices for that. This is usually seen in international conditions, European conditions, and all that, wherein they're already staying in a negative temperature. And when the temperature goes up, they have a certain impact on that because they're not used to that. Whereas in India, if you see, we have four different climatic, we have four different seasons which our animals can enjoy, and they are not much affected by that. So I don't think heat tolerance will play much role in this. Like I said earlier, I would say once again, the timing of AI is most crucial thing in India, not the heat. The timing. Timing means 12 to 18 from the time which the animal come into heat and not from the time when the farmer has seen the heat. Usually the farmer calculates the time when he has seen the heat. But actually it is the animal does not come on the heat that time. It has already come before. Like I would say 90% of the animals come into heat at night. around 11, 12 and all that. And the farmers look at the heat in the morning. So by the time he has observed the heat, 6 hours are already gone. He knows that it is 12 to 18 hours from the time of heat. So he calculates 12 hours from the time he has seen the heat. So if you look at the AI being done, what happens is the AI is already being done after 18 hours only, not before that. So that is one of the major factors hindering, the profitability of the farm.
Okay. And what are the common genetic disorders in dairy cattle and how can they be managed?
No, there are common genetic disorders.
Disorders, yes.
I don't think any common disorders can come in, because when you are selecting all the genomic selections and all that, you have to, they are all curtailed, they are not taken into account. In fact, if you have a look at the places where they even take out the semen of the animal, that place is virtually, out of bounds for everybody for 6 kilometers. So I don't think that comes into picture. It could only come into a picture if the semen used is of a bad quality or it is from some nefarious sources. This has been the case in Maharashtra. I have seen that we have some factories which are producing nefarious, means duplicate semens. In that case, it may be possible. However, when you talk of the big organizations or the bigger companies producing this, they always curtail those habits. And because the sire has to be proven, it is called a proven sire. That means a sire animal which is free from any diseases, free from any genetic manipulation, which could happen in their offsprings. This is all taken care of.
Okay. And how do
And
feed efficiency and genetics correlate dairy cattle breeding?
see, what is happening is, like I said, for humans, what is important is the upbringing of the son of a child so that he behaves correctly afterwards. In case of dairy cattle, even if you have a good genetic potential, for example, I'll simply tell you, you are using a semen for a cow once in 15 months. Maybe even if you take the average cost of 3,000 for a specific sex semen, but you have to give it a proper feeding so that it grows better and faster. If you are not able to do that, what will happen is, even if the genes are good, the animal may not perform as how you desire. For example, it takes about 2 years for it to go to a heifer stage. The expense is at least 100 rupees per day. So 100 rupees per day, if you are talking of 2 years, you are talking of almost 75,000 rupees. Even if you take 50 rupees, it is half. Now compare the cost, both the cost involved. Rupees 3,000 versus 75,000. If you are using AI, the cost is hardly 100 rupees. So which is more important? Unless you have a good feeding practices and management practices, the animal will not come to a proper stage of growth. It has to come to 250 kilos of weight within first 2 years. Actually, most ideal would be at least 1.5 years. So feeding is very, very important. And unless you give a proper feeding, you cannot say that. Now, we have to have the thing called balance feeding. Balance feeding is information of all the materials involved. That means dry grass, green grass, concentrated and mineral mixture. Like in our food, what we see is we take everything we take, but we take salt very little. Now, consider removing salt for some time and see the result, what will happen. It may be in very small quantity in our food, but if you remove that, it creates a havoc. So what is important is a balanced feeding is very important, coupled with a good genetics and good building cycle.
Okay. And 1 second. Yeah. What is the impact of inbreeding or I'll repeat it. What is the impact of inbreeding on dairy herd productivity?
See, I can give you a simple example. There is one community in the world called Parsi community. In that, they usually don't want to marry out of their caste. So what you see is there is a lot of defects in the offsprings you see. See what happens is inbreeding. Inbreeding is like a breeding the father mating with the daughter. So what will happen? It will be accumulation of bad genes, and it will have a detrimental effect with the next generations. That is inbreeding. Inbreeding is actually father mating with the daughter. So in fact, when you are doing AI or having crossbreeding and all that, you have to be very careful about which bull has been used. We can definitely prevent it. It is very simple and very easy to do that.
Okay. How can this is the last question. How can
Yeah.
farmers access reliable dairy genetic resources and breeding technologies?
See, today with today's world, I think everything is available on www. But what would be important for a farmer to pay attention to is available resources in terms of economics. Because even though embryo transfer on is a good technology, it may be you have to have minimum 5 animals which are in heat and the city is synchronized. He may be having only 2 or 4 animals. So for him, it is better that he has to opt for any technology which is available, resource available nearby, easily available and easily serviceable. So I think AI would be the most ideal way for a common farmer to go in, because in the AI also what you see is you get 50% females. SSS, specific sex semen may claim 90%, but even the normal semen also gives you 50%. So I don't think there could be any other this thing. You can always go for AI. Or like I said, it depends on what are the available resources in terms of commerce or economics you have with you, and you can opt for that.
Okay. Okay, sir. So I don't see any more questions. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank you for the presentation, answering all the questions in depth. So we'll
Yeah.
be closing this meeting now.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Same to you.